Chosen ones, listen carefully. This is not a motivational message. This is a correction. Yes, the money was approved. Yes, the opportunity had your name on it. Yes, doors opened on paper. But here is the truth no one wants to say out loud. God never intended you to receive it in that season. Not because he changed his mind. Not because the promise was fake. But because if you had received it then, it would have ruined you. God approves things he does not yet release. He allows proximity without possession. And he watches what happens to your heart when you realize access is not the same as readiness. If you're confused, frustrated, or questioning why it keeps slipping away, this message is for you. Chosen ones, let me slow this down so you actually understand what approval means, because many of you are confusing visibility with victory and access with ownership. In Scripture, approval is God saying, "I see you." Possession is God saying, "You are ready." Those are not the same moment. Joseph didn't rule Egypt the day he received the dream. The dream was approval. The pit, the prison, and the process were preparation. If Joseph had gone straight from the coat to the crown, his gift would have outgrown his discipline, and power without discipline always collapses. God approved him early so his faith could grow before his influence did. David was chosen while still a shepherd. The oil touched his head, but the throne stayed occupied. Why? Because killing lions is easier than leading people. David needed caves, betrayal, and waiting to learn restraint. If David had received the crown the moment he was anointed, pride would have ruled before wisdom did. This is how God works. He approves first to see how you walk without the reward. Chosen ones, some of you saw numbers increase, doors open, attention come, opportunities line up, and you immediately emotionally claimed them. You told yourself, this must be it. But God wasn't handing it over. He was watching your reaction. Did you stay humble? Did you stay prayerful? Did you stay obedient when it looked close, but not complete? Or did impatience creep in? Did entitlement start forming? Did you begin to feel owed? Approval reveals your heart faster than possession ever could. Here's the hard truth. If being approved made you restless, then possession would have made you reckless. If recognition made you proud, then authority would have made you dangerous. If opportunity made you forget God, then success would have replaced him. God does not release what will remove him from the center of your life. Chosen ones, heaven withholds nothing out of cruelty. It withholds out of wisdom. God knows that giving too early doesn't bless, it burdens. And many prayers go unanswered not because God said no, but because he said not yet, and you mistook that silence for rejection. Approval is God testing your obedience when nothing is guaranteed. Possession is God trusting your character when everything is at stake. And if approval alone already tested you, then the delay was mercy. Understand this clearly. You didn't lose what was approved. You were protected from receiving it before you were ready. And God is far more interested in who you become than what you obtain. Chosen ones, this is where most people get uncomfortable because it exposes a lie you've been telling yourself. You thought the delay meant opposition. You assumed it was warfare. You blamed people, systems, timing, even the enemy. But the truth is simpler and harsher. God withheld it because it would have exposed you too early. God sees what money, influence, and access will pull out of you before you ever touch it. You see provision as relief. God sees it as a spotlight. And spotlights don't just illuminate success, they expose weakness. Some of you prayed for increase, but God saw insecurity still ruling your decisions. You asked for elevation, but he saw anger that hadn't been crucified. You wanted freedom through money, but God saw money becoming your identity. So he stopped it. Not because he is withholding good things, but because he refuses to fund your destruction. Chosen ones, money does not create character. It amplifies what already exists. If pride is small now, it will be loud later. If discipline is weak now, it will collapse under pressure. If obedience is selective now, it will disappear entirely when comfort arrives. God saw what you couldn't see. He saw how quickly you would have trusted provision more than Him. He saw how fast gratitude would turn into entitlement. He saw how subtly worship would shift from the altar to the outcome. And because He loves you, He blocked the release. Some of you call this loss. Heaven calls it mercy. Think about it honestly. There were moments when the door almost opened and your heart already started changing. Your prayer life softened. Your urgency faded. Your dependence shifted. You hadn't even received it yet, and it was already reshaping you. God noticed. Chosen ones, exposure before maturity is dangerous. That's why fruit grows in seasons, not overnight. That's why children aren't given adult responsibility. That's why Scripture says, God trains our hands for battle before He places us on the field. You were not denied because you were unworthy. You were delayed because God refuses to let your calling be buried under success. He would rather frustrate you temporarily than lose you permanently. So stop mourning what didn't happen. Stop replaying what almost was. Stop resenting the block. That block was God saying, I see who you're becoming, and I'm not finished yet. And when He finally releases it, it won't expose you. It will confirm you. Chosen ones, the delay you're in right now is not empty time. It is not wasted time. It is revealing time. Delay acts like a mirror. It doesn't change who you are, it shows you who you already are. When God allows something to linger just out of reach, He is watching your inner life, not your outer actions. He is observing what rises in you when prayers seem unanswered and promises feel distant, because what comes out in the waiting is what would control you in the blessing. Some of you discovered impatience you didn't know you had. Others uncovered jealousy, comparison, bitterness, or self-pity. Some of you realized your faith was strong when things moved fast, but fragile when things slowed down. That is the mirror. Chosen ones, ask yourself honestly, when the delay started, did your trust deepen or did it weaken? Did your prayer become more sincere or more transactional? Did you draw closer to God or begin questioning His goodness? God already knows the answers. The delay is not for His information, it is for your awareness. Because you cannot correct what you refuse to see. Many of you were confident you trusted God fully until He stopped giving updates. You believed you were surrendered until control was taken out of your hands. You thought your faith was mature until silence tested it. Delay strips away illusions. It reveals whether your obedience is rooted in love or in outcomes, whether your faith is anchored in God's character or in His benefits. And here is the hard truth. Some of you loved the promise more than the process. You loved the idea of arrival, but resisted transformation. You wanted confirmation, not correction. So God slowed it down. Because if your faith collapses in delay, it would never survive in abundance. Chosen ones, the waiting season is where God recalibrates your heart. He realigns your motives. He exposes emotional dependencies you didn't know were there. He teaches you to trust without proof, to obey without reassurance, to worship without reward. This is not punishment. This is preparation. The delay is asking you one question over and over again. Will you still follow me if nothing changes yet? And until that answer becomes a quiet, steady yes, not a frustrated plea, the mirror stays in place. Not to shame you, but to shape you. Because God will not release you into possession until the reflection shows readiness. Chosen ones, this lesson is where many lose their discipline because proximity creates pressure. Being far from a promise is painful, but being close to it is dangerous. When God allows you to get near something without giving it to you, He is testing restraint. He is watching whether you can remain faithful when you are close enough to feel it, but not authorized to take it. Some of you were closer than you realize. You had conversations, access, insight, favor. You could almost touch it, and that closeness began to affect your behavior. Your emotions intensified. Your expectations rose. Your patience thinned. That is why proximity is a test. Chosen ones, many people can obey when they are far away, but few can obey when they are next in line. It takes maturity to wait without manipulating, to stay humble without resenting, to remain pure without forcing the outcome. God watches what you do when you are close but not chosen yet. Do you try to control the process? Do you begin to justify shortcuts? Do you grow bitter toward those who receive what you wanted? Proximity reveals whether you trust God's timing or only His promise. Some of you almost sabotaged yourself, not because the opportunity disappeared, but because your response while waiting disqualified you. God will not reward desperation. He will not bless impatience disguised as faith. Chosen ones, forcing a door is not faith. It is fear dressed up as confidence. And what you force, you must sustain without God's help. That is why God sometimes pulls you back right when you think you're close. Not to humiliate you, but to protect you. Because receiving something out of season turns blessing into burden. This is where loyalty is tested. Will you remain faithful when someone else steps into what you expected? Will you stay obedient when recognition goes to another name? Will you guard your heart when envy tries to rise? God is not only watching your prayers, He is watching your reactions. Proximity is proof that the promise is real, but restraint is proof that you are ready. And until restraint replaces urgency, God keeps the door just out of reach. Not because He is withholding, but because He is refining you to handle what is coming without losing yourself. Chosen ones, this lesson requires honesty, because some of you are asking God to fund something He never assigned. God does not release provision just because you desire it. He releases provision where there is alignment. Many of you wanted the money to confirm your direction. You were hoping the breakthrough would tell you whether you were on the right path. But God does not work that way. He establishes direction first, then supplies what that direction demands. Provision is not a compass. Calling is. Some of you were moving, but not submitted, active, but not aligned, busy, but not obedient. You asked God to bless plans you never brought to Him for approval, and when the resources didn't come, you assumed resistance when it was actually redirection. God will not finance confusion. Chosen ones, heaven does not bankroll ego projects, image building, or identity experiments. God does not pour resources into assignments that compete with His will or elevate you above your obedience. Some of you wanted the blessing to justify disobedience. Others wanted it to silence insecurity. Some wanted it to prove something to people who doubted you. But God does not reward motives rooted in validation, revenge, or comparison. Alignment precedes abundance. Until your motives are clean, the stream stays blocked. Until your calling is clear, the release stays sealed. Until your obedience is consistent, provision stays conditional. This is not God being harsh. This is God being precise. When God releases resources, He expects them to serve the assignment, not replace Him. And if the blessing would distract you from prayer, dilute your discipline, or distort your purpose, He will withhold it without apology. Chosen ones, settle your direction before asking for provision. Clarify your obedience before demanding resources. Make sure what you are building is what God actually called you to build. Because when your life is aligned, provision stops being a struggle. It becomes a byproduct. And God will never fund what pulls you away from Him, but He will fully supply what fulfills His purpose through you. Chosen ones, this lesson is where everything becomes personal, because delay alone doesn't decide your future, your response does. God does not just watch what happens to you. He watches how you respond to what happens to you. And your response carries more weight than the setback itself. Some of you prayed hard until the door closed. Then you changed. Your tone in prayer shifted. Your discipline weakened. Your obedience became selective. Not because you stopped believing, but because disappointment crept in quietly. God pays close attention to this moment. Chosen ones, frustration reveals maturity. When things don't go your way, do you become bitter or better? Do you withdraw, or do you refine your habits? Do you complain, or do you consecrate yourself again? Many people miss their release not because they failed the first test, but because they failed the response test. God is not impressed by emotional reactions. He looks for spiritual stability. He watches whether you can remain consistent when nothing is moving, faithful when nothing is visible, obedient when nothing is rewarding. Some of you allowed disappointment to make you careless. You loosened your standards. You justified compromises you once would have resisted. You told yourself it didn't matter anymore. God noticed. Chosen ones, how you respond to disappointment tells God whether you can be trusted with fulfillment. If delay makes you reckless, abundance would make you careless. If frustration makes you drift, success would make you forget Him entirely. God does not punish reactions, but He measures readiness through them. When you respond with humility instead of anger, discipline instead of despair, prayer instead of bitterness, you shorten the delay. When you respond with resentment, comparison, or withdrawal, you extend it. This is not cruelty, it is stewardship. God is deciding whether you can handle increase without losing alignment, whether you can be disappointed without becoming disobedient, whether you can wait without becoming cynical. Chosen ones, the door didn't close to test your faith in the promise. It closed to test your faith in God. And if you respond correctly, what felt like a setback becomes a setup, because God only delays those He is still preparing. Chosen ones, this is the truth that must settle your heart. Otherwise, you will live in constant fear of loss. What God has ordained for you cannot be stolen, replaced, or intercepted. People can delay it. Systems can resist it. Circumstances can complicate it, but they cannot cancel it. If God approved it, it still exists. If He delayed it, it is still assigned. Heaven does not misplace destinies. God does not revoke purpose because of temporary resistance. Some of you are grieving as if what didn't happen is gone forever. You replay moments, conversations, near breakthroughs, and missed opportunities. You assume someone else took your place. That mindset is false and dangerous. Chosen ones, what belongs to you by God's will cannot be given to someone else. God does not confuse assignments. He does not mix names. He does not accidentally bless the wrong person. If someone else received something you wanted, it means one of two things. It was never yours, or it wasn't yours yet. And if it wasn't yours yet, no amount of delay can disqualify you unless you disqualify yourself through disobedience. God is not racing against time. He is working through timing. You are not late. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are becoming. Chosen ones, when God finally releases what He approved, it will arrive without struggle. You won't have to manipulate, chase, or prove yourself. There will be clarity, peace, and confirmation, not confusion and chaos. What God gives you will fit you. It will not cost you your integrity. It will not replace your dependence on Him. So stop fearing that you missed it. Stop believing that delay equals denial. Stop measuring your calling against someone else's outcome. Remain obedient. Stay disciplined. Keep your heart clean. Because what God has for you is not fragile. It is protected. And when it comes, you will understand why it couldn't come sooner. Chosen ones, hear this and let it settle deep. What was approved but withheld was never meant to break you. It was meant to build you. God did not delay to frustrate you. He delayed to form you. He was shaping your heart, strengthening your obedience, and removing anything that would have caused you to misuse what was coming. Stop replaying what almost happened. Stop grieving doors God Himself closed. If He shut it, it means it would have limited you, not blessed you. God does not take away futures, He protects them. Remain faithful in the quiet season. Remain disciplined when no one is watching. Remain obedient when there is no reward attached. Because God is not preparing the blessing, He is preparing you. And when the release finally comes, it will come without anxiety, without striving, without loss of peace. You will recognize it by the alignment, the clarity, and the confirmation in your spirit. Until then, do not rush God. Do not doubt His timing. Do not question your calling. The delay is not evidence of rejection. It is evidence that God is still working. Stay ready. Stay surrendered. Stay faithful.